Betrayal on African soil. As Sudan bleeds from within, Kenya's President William Ruto welcomes the enemy. In a stunning diplomatic twist, the RSF, accused of war crimes and rebellion, is greeted not as fugitives, but as honored guests. And what they announce in Nairobi shocks the continent. A rival government. Sudan calls it treason. Kenya calls it diplomacy. But Africa is watching. This is the story behind the parallel government. How Hemedti's RSF walked into Kenya and walked out with a political coup. It was a visit shrouded in silence. No presidential press release. No red carpet footage. But on July 22, 2025, a delegation led by Abdel Rahim Dagalo, brother of RSF leader Hemedti, landed in Nairobi, Kenya. According to high-level leaks, they weren't there to negotiate peace. They were there to launch power. In a luxury hotel guarded by private security, the RSF delegation prepared documents, signed a charter, and held meetings with unnamed African diplomats. On the agenda, the formation of a unity government of Sudan, one that doesn't include Sudan's actual military or civilian leaders. The world blinked. Sudan cried foul. But Kenya stayed silent. Kenya has long styled itself as East Africa's peacemaker. But this move has led many to ask, is President Ruto playing both sides? Sources within Kenya's Ministry of Foreign Affairs say this meeting had quiet blessings from powerful foreign interests, nations that see Hemedti as a stabilizer rather than a warlord. One Western diplomat was quoted anonymously. The Sudanese army is stubborn. Hemedti listens. That's why he's being supported quietly. Overlay newspaper headlines. Ruto under fire. Kenya welcomes rebel leaders. The backlash inside Sudan was instant. Accusations flew. Ruto was accused of sabotaging Sudan's sovereignty, and worse, sponsoring rebellion on behalf of foreign powers. Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, better known as Hemedti, rose from the deserts of Darfur as a camel trader to become the most feared paramilitary commander in Sudan. Leading the Rapid Support Forces, he was once a government ally. But after the fall of Omar al-Bashir and the failure of Sudan's civilian transition, he made his move. In April 2023, civil war exploded between Hemedti's RSF and the Sudanese Army. 2 years later, thousands dead, millions displaced, and still no peace. But now, from a luxury hotel in Nairobi, he launches a parallel government. With foreign backing, with Kenyan facilitation, and with no sign of remorse. Sudan's Transitional Military Council did not mince words. They accused Kenya of betrayal, called the act an international crime, warned that no government born from RSF hands would be recognized. In Khartoum, protests erupted outside the Kenyan embassy. Sudanese civilians waved signs. Ruto is with the warlords. Kenya has blood on its hands. In a televised statement, Sudanese generals said, "This is not peace. This is a diplomatic ambush." Once again, the African Union remained silent. Despite being created to protect African sovereignty, it said nothing as one African nation helped launch an illegal regime against another. No condemnation, no mediation, no leadership. And just days earlier, Burkina Faso's President Traoré had called the AU useless. Now many Africans say he was right. Why is the AU watching as RSF warlords walk freely in African capitals? Why is it silent as Sudan's sovereignty is sliced open? Kenya may have hosted the event, but global fingerprints are everywhere. RSF has long been backed by the UAE. Hemedti's family controls gold exports and smuggling routes worth billions. Some analysts believe Western intelligence agencies prefer Hemedti because he offers order, even if by force. France, the UK, and even Egypt have kept quiet. But Africans aren't blind. They see the game. Destabilize, divide, and dominate. And the RSF, backed by foreign gold, is the new pawn. Why did President Ruto risk everything by hosting RSF? Insiders say it's about positioning Kenya as the kingmaker in regional peace. By engaging RSF, Ruto may be trying to control both sides of the conflict. But it's a dangerous game. He's now accused of alienating Sudan, disrespecting IGAD, and destroying Kenya's reputation as a neutral peace broker. And if this backfires, Kenya could face diplomatic isolation. For Sudan, this could mean 2 governments, 2 armies, and 1 broken country. But for Africa, this is bigger than Sudan. It's about foreign puppets in African suits. It's about betrayal in the name of peace. It's about whether African leaders will stand for each other or sell one another out. From Mali to Ethiopia, from Congo to Sudan, the continent is being reshaped by coups, alliances, and betrayals. And the people, they're caught in the middle. If RSF's Nairobi-based unity government goes forward, who will recognize it? What will Sudan's army do? Will more nations follow Kenya's lead or isolate it? And can Africa afford to normalize war criminals in suits if it means stability? These are the questions that must be answered before this becomes the new normal.
Welcome to African Diary 24, the channel where Africa speaks for itself. From powerful stories and rich cultures to political realities and grassroots movements, we bring you content that informs, inspires, and challenges the narrative. Whether you're here to learn, connect, or explore, you're in the right place. This is Africa, unfiltered, unapologetic, and rising. Hit that subscribe button and become part of the journey. Disclaimer: the content featured on African Diary 24 is for informational, educational, and documentary purposes only. We aim to represent stories with accuracy and integrity, but the views expressed in interviews or commentary do not necessarily reflect those of the channel. We do not promote hate, violence, or political bias. Viewer discretion is advised, especially for sensitive topics. Always do your own research and think critically.
Meanwhile, in Sudan, the struggle for power continues. Sudan's military-backed government has slammed Kenya's President William Ruto for rolling out the red carpet for members of Sudan's paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, RSF, and its allies. The RSF delegation is led by its commander, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo Hemedti's younger brother, Abdel Rahim Dagalo, who is also the deputy head of the RSF, is expected to name the new cabinet of the parallel government in exile. This is what we are following closely for you. Kenya says it is committed to helping resolve the crisis in Sudan. Ruto's administration maintains that the visit by the rebel group is not a recognition of a parallel government. But many see this as a diplomatic recognition of the RSF rebel group. So, why is the Kenyan government inviting a rebel group? And how does this affect the ongoing peace talks between the warring parties in Sudan? Welcome to this channel. In today's episode, we are going to explore the possibility that there is more to the visit than meets the eye. We want to find out if indeed Ruto is playing a double game, or whether he has made a blunder that could cost him dearly. The timing of the visit could not be any more awkward. Sudan's military ruler General Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, aka Hemedti, who is also the chairman of the Sovereignty Council, is in town. He met President Ruto on Tuesday afternoon. The RSF leader arrived in Kenya on Monday evening and was welcomed at the airport by a government delegation led by Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Karanjaki Bicho and his East African Community counterpart, Ambassador Govt Desai. He held a closed-door meeting with President Ruto at State House, Nairobi. Hemedti's visit comes barely a month after Ruto left office. For Sudan, he personally invited and met Hemedti at State House. During their first meeting, the two leaders discussed peace and security in Sudan and the region. Hemedti is the most powerful man in Sudan. He leads the RSF, a notoriously brutal force accused of war crimes and other abuses. He played a key role in the 2021 coup that brought down the country's transitional government. He was supposed to lead the country's transition to democracy, but instead launched a devastating and brutal war against his former boss, Army Chief General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. Now he wants to lead the country as president. But why is Kenya inviting Hemedti when there is an ongoing peace process? Why is Ruto cozying up to a rebel leader while the country is still bleeding? Could this be a scheme to embarrass and weaken the army's grip on power? What is Kenya's interest in the conflict in Sudan? And why is Kenya inviting Hemedti when the country is still bleeding? And why is Ruto cozying up to a rebel leader when the country is still bleeding? Could this be a scheme to embarrass and weaken the army's grip on power? What is Kenya's interest in the conflict in Sudan? Kenya is heavily invested in Sudan's peace process. It plays a key role in the regional body charged with mediating the conflict, IGAD, the Intergovernmental Authority on Development. Kenya also hosts hundreds of thousands of Sudanese refugees who have fled the conflict. A stable Sudan is good news for Kenya because it means that there will be no more refugee crisis and it can focus on dealing with insecurity at home. The question is, did Ruto consult with the African Union or the UN before inviting the rebels? The invitation has raised tension within the East African Community, EAC, which is pushing for a peaceful resolution of the conflict through dialogue. It seems Kenya is playing a double game in the conflict. On one hand, it supports the peace process and the efforts by the army to restore order and bring lasting peace. But inviting the RSF casts doubts over Kenya's commitment to the peace process. So, what is the secret agenda by the Kenyan government? The truth is the war in Sudan is a complex web of shifting alliances and personal ambitions. The RSF's recent capture of the city of Gedref near the Ethiopian border has raised fears of a wider regional war. Ethiopia is already grappling with its own internal conflict, and the last thing it needs is a spillover from the Sudan conflict. The situation is further complicated by the involvement of external actors such as Russia and the United Arab Emirates. RSF's alliance with Russia has been a game-changer in the conflict. Russian mercenaries from the Wagner Group have reportedly joined the RSF in its fight against the Sudanese Army. The Wagner Group has a track record of brutality and human rights abuses. Its presence in Sudan has only added to the chaos and suffering of the people. The Wagner Group has been accused of war crimes and other abuses in countries such as Syria, Libya, and the Central African Republic. On the other hand, the Sudanese Army has been supported by the United Arab Emirates. The UAE has provided military assistance and logistical support to the army. The UAE is believed to be interested in securing the RSF's support in its fight against Iranian influence in the region. With the RSF's vast experience in counterinsurgency warfare, it is a valuable asset to the UAE in its campaign against Iranian proxies in Yemen. The UAE has been involved in the Yemeni civil war since 2015. It is part of a Saudi-led coalition that has carried out airstrikes against Iranian-backed rebels. So, why does the UAE support the Sudanese army? The answer lies in the country's strategic interests in the region. The UAE is a small but wealthy country that relies on trade and investment for its economic growth. It is located in a volatile region that is rich in oil and natural gas. To protect its interests, the UAE has built a strong military that is capable of projecting power beyond its borders. The UAE has invested heavily in advanced weaponry and military technology. It is one of the largest arms importers in the world. One of the UAE's strategic partners in the region is Sudan. Sudan is a vast country with a strategic location that controls the Red Sea. It is also rich in oil and other natural resources. The UAE has invested billions of dollars in Sudan's economy. It has also provided military assistance to the Sudanese government. The UAE sees Sudan as a key ally in its campaign against Iranian influence in the region. Iran is a major rival of the UAE. It is believed that Iran is trying to establish a military presence in Sudan. The UAE is worried that if Iran gains a foothold in Sudan, it could use the country as a base to launch attacks against Israeli targets. But it is not just the threat of Iranian influence that concerns the UAE. The country is also worried about the growing power of Turkey in Sudan. Turkey is another major player in the region. It has close ties with the Sudanese government and has provided humanitarian aid to the country. However, the UAE believes that Turkey has ulterior motives in Sudan. It is concerned that Turkey is trying to expand its influence in the country and undermine its own interests. For instance, Turkey has been involved in the reconstruction of Sudan's main international airport. It has also provided scholarships to Sudanese students and built schools and hospitals in the country. The UAE sees these projects as a way for Turkey to gain influence over the Sudanese people. The country is concerned that if Turkey succeeds in winning the hearts and minds of the Sudanese people, it could eventually push the UAE out of the country. The UAE's support for the Sudanese Army is therefore part of its broader strategy to contain Iranian and Turkish influence in the region. By supporting the Sudanese Army, the UAE believes that it can prevent Iran and Turkey from gaining a foothold in the country. It also hopes that by propping up the Sudanese Army, it can maintain its own influence in Sudan and protect its strategic interests. It is against this background that the recent visit by the RSF to Kenya must be understood. The RSF is a powerful non-state actor in Sudan. It is a paramilitary force that has been involved in the country's internal conflicts. The group has close ties to the UAE and is believed to be supported by the country financially and militarily. The RSF's leader, Hemedti, is a key player in the conflict in Sudan. He is a former rebel leader who turned his back on the insurgency and became a key ally of the government. He is now leading a parallel government in defiance of the official one. Hemedti's visit to Kenya is seen as a challenge to the authority of the Sudanese government and a blow to the efforts by the international community to bring about a peaceful resolution to the conflict. The visit has also raised questions about Kenya's role in the conflict in Sudan. Kenya is a member of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, a regional body that is mediating the conflict in Sudan. IGAD has called for a ceasefire and a peaceful resolution to the conflict. However, Kenya's decision to host Hemedti and the RSF has raised questions about its commitment to the peace process. Some critics have accused Kenya of playing a double game in Sudan. They argue that while Kenya is a member of IGAD and is calling for a peaceful resolution to the conflict, it is also cozying up to the RSF and Hemedti, who are key players in the fighting. The critics argue that by inviting Hemedti to Kenya, Ruto is giving him a platform to rally support for his cause and undermine the efforts by the international community to bring about a peaceful resolution to the conflict. So, what is Ruto's game in all of this? Only time will tell if this will end up being a big diplomatic blunder.